Yes, people, welcome back to the channel. This is the Manchester United versus Chelsea review, and I finally get to do a review for a win. I was wondering if it would ever come, but it finally has, and no better way to do it than United to do it in the strangest way possible. We should know by now that nothing is ever smooth sailing watching Manchester United, whether it's win, lose, or draw. But 3 points in the bag, an opportunity to get back-to-back wins next week. I was actually, you know what? Let's talk about the game, because I think the game was almost played in different parts, like almost different frames. The first 5 minutes that led to the red card by great play by Sesko as well. I thought Sesko's 45 minutes, he showed quite a lot of promise. You can see it as a player there. I was gutted for him that he had to come off. And Mbumo being instinctual. He's running in behind, running off players. His movement kind of generating that mistake from Robert Sanchez, who we know who he is. He's a bozo. Let's get that right. No idea why Chelsea still employ him as a keeper. But that first 5 minutes that led to the red card, I thought United flew out the traps. Started aggressively, with energy, with impetus, with aggression, with energy. And that's something that I thought was going to be a trend for United anyway, because what I will give Amorim credit for is he's made United fitter. He's made the United squad fitter, better physicality. But I always thought United would have an advantage in this league campaign from not having midweek Europe games, and I think I'm seeing that play out with the way that we start matches from a physical and athletic standpoint before it then dwindles away later in matches, which is another concern. Is that a physicality issue of the players? I'm not sure it really is. I think it's more... Amorim's system is so vertical, transitional and set up for kind of like ping-pong games almost, which is why whenever we have to defend in settled play, we end up getting pinned as a 5, because he doesn't want... I don't think he wants United to be defending in 5 and being so defensive. I think he wants... I know we did it today with the Ugarte change for Sesko. I think he thought the game changed too much after the Casemiro red, but... I think the theme of United's legs not being at 100%, and then all of a sudden the game seems to change, and then we kind of don't have a stranglehold on matches for very long. I think that's obviously something to worry about going forward. But for me, I thought the start was good. The start was promising. You get the goal from Bruno Fernandes, his 100th goal for Manchester United, pretty much cementing himself as a Manchester United legend, really. Obviously, he probably would have wanted more big silverware to go along with it. It's just unfortunate the era of Manchester United he's played in. I think he's the 19th Manchester United player to achieve that. So you got to give props and kudos to him, because he's been sensational for 5 years. It's not been smooth sailing for him all the time. He's had his difficulties. He's had to go through the adversity of what is Manchester United Football Club. But yeah, and then it was 1-0. I can't remember exactly who crossed it in, but I know that he got wrong side of Trevor Chalobah, and it was 1-0. And then there was a little bit of a ricochet situation in the box, and Luke Shaw shows the passion. I feel like he wanted that ball the most. Nods it on, and then you got Casemiro scoring another header against Chelsea, which he's making a habit of. But in typical Casemiro fashion, with 2-0 up, a man up, there is no way United shouldn't just cruise to a victory with the way that game was going. But for some reason, there's never any sustainability with the way we play. And we started to implode. I think even when we were 2-0 up and we had the man extra, we had the better of it, but I think we didn't create as much clear-cut opportunities as we should have, especially when Maresca made the changes he did, which were taking off Pedro Neto as an outlet, taking off Esteval, and then took off Palmer, which I thought was a suicidal change, but turns out I think he had a bit of a growing issue. I was expecting a little bit more from that standpoint, because I thought we could have killed them off with a third and fourth, because I thought that was the way the game was going. But as usual, we make things a little bit tougher. And then Casemiro's second yellow, for me, I think it was a harsh second yellow. You can see why he's giving it, but I always think a second yellow card for someone that's already on a booking, I think the jeopardy is so big for a second yellow in terms of a sending off, that there should be a little bit of a greater allowance for what you allow before you book. It should be almost like a blatant clear yellow, and I'm not sure it was. I think he got caught out by the fact that he was wrong side, and it could probably be perceived by the referee as a bit of a tactical foul. But as soon as Casemiro got sent off, the wind got taken out of our sails, and in terms of territory and possession, Chelsea dominated pretty much the rest of the game. I wouldn't say they created very much. I thought we defended. I thought De Ligt and Mazraoui was sensational. De Ligt especially was a warrior. As soon as you've got to defend a box and it requires box defending and getting your head on things and getting in the way of things, that's when De Ligt thrives. I think he's been really solid this season. I've been critical of him. I think he's been solid since he come in. But I thought maybe he was getting overramped in terms of the compliments. But he's had a good start to the season, and I thought he was sensational today. And Mazraoui, he's a class act. I love him. Always have. Always have done, always will. Sensational football, and one of the best buys that we've had in years, especially when you equate it to value in the amount we spent on him. But I think for the rest of the game, Ugarte comes on for Sesko half time as well. I thought the 9 minutes basically in stoppage time in the first half was very poor as well. It looked like they were gonna. I think Cucurella got a chance to cut the deficit to 2-1, which would have been the worst time to concede just before half time. And the second half was, I'm not going to blow smoke up your asses, that was an awful watch. I thought the second half was a horrendous game of football. You didn't get much quality from Chelsea themselves. I thought João Pedro was sensational. He's a player that I love. I thought it was a one-man army almost. Outlet, technical ability. I'm going to shout out to him. I think he's a quality buy. One of the few transfers that Chelsea have got right. But it's very hard to basically review the second half. I thought Ahmad, for the season he had last season and how much that we all love him and thought he was ascending, he's been very, very underwhelming this season. His decision making, he's not been as clean in some of his technical work, being a lot more greedy than usual, almost like he's morphed bodies with Garnacho a little bit. I think Ahmad needs to buck up his ideas fast, especially with Cunha back. I think he'll find himself out of the lineup, but with the way he's performed, I think he can't really argue with it. I think Bayern Day gives me frights. I think Bayern Day must have conceded 13 goals from like 20 odd shots on target. It's something unbelievable. But anytime the ball goes near him, whether it's a shot or a cross, I'm shitting myself. And as much as I'm talking about tactics and I criticise different things, having such a liability in goal, as we had seen with Onana, is such a detriment to a team. Such a detriment to the team. But yeah, we take the 3 points. So I'm gonna, because what wins do for United, especially, it makes the weeks not feel as long. When you've got the civil war discourse in the fan base, everyone's just unhappy. There's no feel good factor. But at the same time, I'd love for United to win a game where it doesn't always have to feel a little bit bittersweet. You wish we could just come out and be joyous and be like, that was brilliant. I saw something that's giving me a little bit of positivity going forward. And you've got Brentford next week under Keith Andrews. They're not the same outfit they were under Thomas Frank, but I've seen a couple of good performances from them. I thought they were really good against Chelsea the other day, and they pose different problems. That's the Premier League. That's why you've got to be adaptable. That's why you've got to be malleable in the way you play in your systems. You've got to have different ways of winning matches. Because you play Chelsea this week, big side, and they pose you a certain kind of problem, and then you play Brentford the following week, and they pose a completely different problem. That's the Premier League. And that's why it tests you week in, week out, different systems, different styles. So the proof will be in the pudding. Will we get a back-to-back win for the first time under amorim? I can't believe I'm saying that when it's been almost a year in his tenure. But I think going down to 10 obviously helped us in terms of definitely getting a stranglehold of the game before Casemiro got sent off. But I would have loved to have seen, without United, the way we started the match before the red, I'd love to have seen it continued 11v11 so that you can't almost review a game having caveats on it. But I'm just going to leave that. Because what I will also say is, regardless of what people tell you, Manchester United have really good players and some quality in the team. And I don't see, and I haven't seen, a team that's not running their socks off, not working hard, not competing, and giving up on a manager, which I think is a very lazy narrative and excuse that's made any time that we drop points or lose games. I don't see that. I think we've got a very honest set of players. And I'm not going to get into the rhetoric of him giving up and throwing another manager under the bus. I'm not having that. I'm seeing some honest performances. It's just sometimes you've got some physicality issues with some players. You've got some players that are quality, some players that are probably a little bit subpar. Sometimes you can only be as good as your weakest link, but I don't think that's the case with these lads. I think they're trying. I think there's just a whole heap of different issues that don't really coincide with that, but I'll take the win. I was wondering when I was ever going to get a review where we actually had 3 points, but I thought I'd just have some quick thoughts. To be honest, I think if I'm going through individuals, I think Dorgu's final ball could have been a bit better. I know we had a really good cross from Bumo first half. I think there was some iffy performances, but on the most part, I think with the second half and the way it went and how much of a struggle that was to watch for a majority of it, I think there's not much more I could say. Just take the 3 points. You take the win against Chelsea and the big boys. I think people are talking about me running jokes saying we're 2 points off second and whatever. I'm not really going to talk about points totals after 5 matches, but if we win games, who knows where it can end up. I'm going to still have that little bit of element of delusion when I'm still such a cynic, but we'll see how Brentford goes next week and whether we can get another victory over the line. But we got over the line. That's the important thing. Showed some character, defended well in the end, and we'll take the 3 points. But thanks again for the support. Remember to like, comment, hit the subscribe button if you're new, and I'll see you next time.